Good morning, everyone. This is James here from Travel Trade Gazette. I'm very pleased to be joined today for our latest TTG face-to-face interview with Zina Bencheikh, Managing Director EMEA at Intrepid Travel. So good morning, Zina. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. We've got plenty to discuss this morning. Lots of interesting updates from Intrepid, and also a particularly interesting one that you've put out this morning. But let's just start right at the top. We're 3 or 4 months into this unusual situation we find ourselves in at the moment. How have things been for you and everyone Intrepid in the UK at the moment?
Yeah, it's been tough months. My role has been announced at the end of February as we were going into the beginning of this crisis, and we've been through different phases. As many businesses, our main focus at the beginning was really to deal with the crisis on the ground and evacuate customers while all the countries were going on lockdown. We had 3,500 of them, and the phone didn't stop ringing. It was really hard repatriation. We've never done that at that scale. So it was for us the main and first priority. And as again, many other businesses, we entered a phase where we had to deal with a lot of inquiries from customers and agents around cancellation, refund, and all of these things. But it's been actually good in the past few weeks that we feel that we are actually settled a bit more, and we've entered a phase that we call reimagination and hibernation in the same time, where we can think ahead and think of what the future is going to look like for us, and start to plan and come up with new projects and new ideas, so we can rebound in a few weeks or few months time, hopefully.
Yeah, and like you mentioned a moment ago, is you were appointed to your role just towards the end of February, I believe. So did you have any sense at that time? We had the talk in the background about kind of what was going on in China and with some of the cruise sector as well. But did you have a sense in the back of your mind that this is where you would be in sort of 3 or 4 months' time?
Absolutely not. I remember we were celebrating at the end of February. I was actually in Morocco with our DMC teams that I was, they were doing farewell to me. I used to work on that side of the business before, and we were celebrating what would be the best year ahead for Intrepid. I mean, the bookings, the pipeline, the budget, everything were looking really nice. And we really thought that this crisis will affect one part of the world and will be forgotten very soon, as SARS maybe was, or other crises like this. So no, absolutely no idea that it would look like this. And every week, every day, as things were changing, we were adapting our strategy, adapting our communication and our plans. So it was really, really hard beginning, obviously.
And it must have also been, I know you would have had some knowledge, and you would have worked with some of the people in the UK as well before, but I mean, to take on that responsibility for a team at that time, I mean, that must have been quite, have you dealt with anything like that in the past, or is this completely just, I mean, how do you even start with something like that? That's
I think it's I've started jobs in tough conditions, but I never thought this would be like this. So yeah, I guess you learn and you grow when you go through challenges, and this challenge has just made us as a team stronger. I feel that having us working together virtually under these circumstances and everything has made our team engagement even higher than ever. So obviously I didn't know half of the team before. I spent the last 12 months in the UK, but I was really working on my other job and traveling a lot, and so it was really challenging, clearly. But as I said, going through this challenge with them have made us stronger, and I'm very happy with where the team is sitting, and seeing some green shots now for the future is making everyone really enthusiastic that we've been together through this together. So.
Excellent. And just quickly as well, could you give us just a quick bit of a recap about your history with Intrepid, and also the DMC side of the business before that as well?
Yeah, sure. So I started 10 years ago working with Intrepid. I just celebrated 10 years last week. So when I started, I was working as a finance manager in the Intrepid's Marrakesh office, which is a destination management company for Morocco. And back at that time, Intrepid had, I think, around 10 of them, of these destination management companies. And as of today, we have 25 of them. So it's one of the specificity, or I want to say competitive advantage of Intrepid, that throughout the time of the 31 years of experience of operations, we've been developing these offices in each of the main country where we operate trips. So my job before I moved to the MD role was to look after all the DMCs in the EMEA region, which is Europe, Middle East, and North Africa, and we've got 5 of them. And it's actually regional from an operation perspective for Intrepid. So around 450 people that I was responsible for, including 2 leaders and office staff, and I was managing the general managers that are looking after these DMCs. And so this is really how I, my last job with Intrepid before moving to MD.
Excellent. Okay. Zina, look, let's move on to well, the announcement that Intrepid made this morning, which is going to be a particularly interesting one, I think, for an awful lot of TTG readers and the wider travel sector as well, in terms of what you're hoping to do. So we've had today the launch of what you're hoping will become an annual celebration of the travel trade itself. So we're having National Travel Agents Day, hopefully towards the end of July each year. Could you just give me a bit of an insight into how you came to that point? I mean, Intrepid works closely with the trade, but how about bringing that idea that I think is in a few other countries over to the UK and Australia and North America?
Yeah, so, I think the first time we actually talked about this idea was when with the team, with our what we call industry team, so the team that looks after all the trade partners, we were brainstorming ideas during the lockdown period of how can we engage and how can we develop and how can we strengthen our relationship with our trade partners, especially that we've been really grateful, and we are very grateful for the support, the help, and we do acknowledge that they've been the ones that really took the hardest hit, and our travel agent, the hardest hit from this crisis. So we were really brainstorming different ideas. And this one came up as we learned that in Australia or in Canada, there was a National Travel Agents Day, while in the UK, where travel agents are, massive part of the travel industry, there was no such thing. And we really found that was actually missing. And we realized that that was actually probably the best year if we wanted to introduce something like this. So we spent the last 2 months brainstorming what we could do about it and how to do it as well. We registered that day, and we decided to do it on the last day before when schools close and before people go on holiday, because we know that a lot of travel agents also kind of have this day as the last day of hard work after the big sales period in a normal environment, and then would also consider going on holidays themselves. And so we thought that this day would be great, and launching it today so we can allow some time for everyone in the industry to join us and celebrate their own agent partner would be an amazing thing to do, especially this year. So obviously this year is going to be all virtual because we're also working on lockdown, and I think we've managed to do so many great things virtually, and we've seen a lot of all the industry coming together with all the seminars, conferences, but also for travel agents more particularly how we engage them with fun activities, with education, like training, with webinars and all of these things that we thought we could do something really, really well, even if it's virtual. But moving forward, making it an annual event where we can do things more physically, things like celebrating our best agent by taking them to special meals and all sorts of recognitions like this. So this is really how we came up with that idea.
Yeah, and I think the travel industry, and particularly the travel agent side of the sector, is such a kind of sort of warm, kind of inclusive side of the travel sector, and that idea that you're sort of on the road team and your sales team and things, and they know these agents personally, and the idea of being able to get everyone together properly when we're able to post lockdown to actually celebrate this on an annual basis, I think is going to be something that hopefully, I mean, you would hope is going to bring you closer together.
Yeah, for sure. And we've launched a big campaign called Be Together a few months ago to connect our customers with our tour leaders and our people and customers among themselves. And we're thinking to actually launch the same thing with our agents. We actually want to, part of the celebration would be even virtually to launch a Be Together campaign for agents, so they can so we can get customers feedback for their the best agent, the best experiences that were delivered thanks to really this special relationship that they have with agents. And moving forward, I think people will want to book more and more with agents, and we're seeing this in the UK more specifically. There is a clear shift for us from between direct and industry sales toward industry sales, and we need to recognize that's going to be even more important moving forward. And this is a lot due to what happened in the past few months with the refund and and also with the safety aspect, with all the concerns and questions people have about where can I go, how am I going to be stranded, and what are the restrictions, and all of these questions that we really think that the travel agent place will be even bigger moving forward than it was before.
Yeah, and I think we saw some of that on Friday. We discussed that a moment ago in terms of the new easing of restrictions on travel at the moment, and the complexities of that, with there being two different lists of countries people can or can't travel to, essentially, and people like travel agents and businesses like Intrepid Travel, it falls on them to actually explain this to consumers in a way. So I think, like you say, that the trust placed by consumers, hopefully, in agents going forward will be sort of well rewarded. And like you say, that day just before everyone goes away on their summer holidays, an opportunity to drop a tweet or send a message or drop a quick email to your travel agent to say, yep, we're on our way, and thank you so much for doing that. That must be a really big positive going forward, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
Excellent. How can people get involved in this then? How can other parts of the travel trade and other businesses within travel get involved in what will hopefully be this annual celebration?
What we're doing really is create a platform for everyone to do their own celebration with their own partners. We're doing our own on the 24th, as I said, will be a virtual event, but everyone else will have their own, Facebook pages or platform where they can, generate their own ideas of how they can celebrate. There is a hashtag that we registered, the NTADUK hashtag, that you can also use from today onward and the whole month of July until we get that day, really using it. And we just encourage the whole industry to come behind and do their own celebration, their own way, for their own agent and travel and trade partners, really.
Excellent. And just focusing on the trade aspect of Intrepid's business at the moment, you mentioned how you were seeing kind of an increase in people booking Intrepid through the trade, due to that trust and that expertise as well. What's the kind of balance with trade business at the moment for Intrepid Travel?
It's around 60-40%, so 60 for industry and 40% direct. And it's been shifting really toward industry in the past few weeks and months. So definitely there is a trend. Okay.
And over the last couple of months, with your team unable to be able to get out to travel agents around the UK or engage with them kind of in the personal face-to-face way like we would be used to, what have you been doing over the last couple of months to keep that relationship going?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, as I was mentioning, it was part of a brainstorming session that we came up with the National Travel Agent Day, but we've done a lot of things from educational things, like, we actually, we started to do less recorded webinar and more live Q&A with our agent during this period. We've got a Facebook page called Intrepid Love Agents, where we connect with around more than 5,000 agents across the UK and Ireland. And some of the Q&As were around either products that we get someone from the business who is a product person who will really detail and answer questions directly from agent about this product. It could be around safety aspects. So for example, I think it was 10 days ago, we had our general manager of our DMC in Europe, who is an operational expert and has been very heavily involved in the development and the implementation of our new safety guidelines, who has been answering agent questions around how do we make sure that our trip post-COVID will be operated safely. I've done myself one Q&A as well to introduce myself and talk about some of the other initiatives that we've done more from a wider perspective and really engage them at different levels. So that was one. We've also done a lot of fun activities because we wanted to recognize that in the past we would have fun physically in the way that we would, get out and have drinks and have activities and, go on family trips and things like that. So for example, we have one of our sales guy that at the moment lives in a pub. He's been unlocked his brother's pub and he's organized a massive quiz night with 74 agents from the same company that joined. It was really, really well received. So we also, we've done some things with parents, like agents who are parents, and I'm myself a parent, and I tell you, I struggled a lot at the beginning homeschooling and all the juggling between, you know, school and work. And we've initiated a really nice initiative to connect agent kids with kids around the world. As I was mentioning, we've got DMCs in 25 different countries, so we have a lot of staff around the world from different nationalities, background, that have also kids, and we just connected these kids together in the form of a pen pal program where they're, you know, exchange how is life in the lockdown, and hoping one day maybe they will meet in, you know, their home destination where people will be able to travel again. So a lot of different things, really, from fun to more formal but just really using what we've got as a tool, which is really internet and our Facebook page to keep engaging agents with us, because it is really important and more moving forward.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting also to see how travel really has grasped the kind of the tools that have become available to them to really kind of keep those things going. I mean, it seems so strange that in the last couple of months that that all of us, I mean, from yourself doing live bits like that and your team, I mean, everyone suddenly had to become this kind of presentational kind of person and really kind of projecting themselves like that. It must have been tough a lot for your team to kind of get used to that, and also to bring people along with them at the same time. Have you had to do any training internally or anything like that to kind of bring that forward?
You know, they really enjoyed it. Really master presenter. We've been impressed how people can stretch the skill set and, you know, do things that they never thought they would do before. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a really great industry sales team, and they've all done fantastic, and they really enjoy doing what they've been doing. So no, I think it didn't need any training. They were born.
Brilliant. And I think also there was a change within the industry sales team quite recently, was there? Was that with the appointment of Joanna Reeve? Is that right? To head of TaylorMade?
And industry sales.
And industry, sorry, yeah.
She was looking after TaylorMade before. Andrew Turner left the business at the end of February. She was actually looking after the industry sales on an interim type of capacity, but she's done such a fantastic job. I think it was a no-brainer for us. She got the job. She really deserved it. A lot of the initiatives, a lot of the team engagement that we really have, and engagement with trade partners. We received recently an amazing email from one of the head of the biggest travel agent company that we are partnering with, praising her and praising her ability. So really happy with her appointment, and hopefully this is going to lead to much more success from that sales part of our business.
Excellent. And so far as I recall, I mean, Intrepid are hoping to resume operations, if you can, in some destinations towards, is it the end of September, start of October time? Is that right? Yeah,
so we've been a bit contradicting ourselves, because we did suspend our global operations until the end of September. And that was really, as we were discussing earlier, to reassess and take the time to look into safety, because safety is the major concern for us. However, we did a few weeks ago launch our brand new range of products called Intrepid Retreats, which are closer to home type of product. And these were really designed looking into a short-term opportunity, but following the long-term strategic plan. We've always wanted to have our own range of domestic products. We actually have the destination management company everywhere in the world, so there was no reason why we wouldn't be able to do that. And looking into really accelerating that part of the strategy to do it now, because we know that domestic travel will be the first one to bounce back. For this region, more specifically UK, Europe, we found that domestic could become a bit more regional than just domestic, because of, you know, we start to hear about restriction lifting and all of these things. And this is why we came up with a range of closer to home, as we call Intrepid Retreats, that goes to trips in the UK, as well as trip at, you know, a maximum 3 hours flight from the UK around Europe, the Middle East and North Africa.
Yeah, and so in Intrepid Retreats, I mean, that was a very interesting announcement when it came up last month. I mean, I think when we spoke to James Thornton, CEO of Intrepid Travel, a couple of months ago, he did suggest that there was going to be some movement on the domestic side. But it's interesting. I feel that with a company like Intrepid, so well known for touring and adventure, and those real kind of trips that get you to the heart of some very, very, very well-known around the world kind of destinations, to bring that down to kind of level where we're looking at, I think in the UK, places like Suffolk and Cornwall and the Peak District and things, which are all places I think that most sort of British people have in the back of their mind that they know about or a kind of sort of beautiful spots. But the idea that now we're kind of bringing that forward into a holiday proposition, I find very interesting. And I'm just wondering how you went about choosing where to go first in the UK.
Actually, when we designed these trips, we debated a lot about the places we go and what would sell, but what would be really Intrepid type of products that are immersive, that are bringing back to the local communities. We want to make sure that we will contract suppliers that are locally, like accommodation that are locally owned, and so really making sure that these will be a type of Intrepid trips. And we run a wide survey, and we really followed what our customers said. We had in 1,000 customers' responses, we had 80% of them saying that they would consider travel in the UK in 2020. And the top destinations that came were really Scotland, Cornwall, the ones you just mentioned. So we wanted to really do something around this destination, so we are able to operate trips. But in the same time, when we did design this trip, we designed them with making sure that they are locally led by a local leader, that they are we contracting suppliers that are locally owned, and we have all of these experiences that are locally supplied with a lot of the food that is locally supplied as well, and all of these things that make Intrepid really special. Trips are low carbon footprint, and they're also carbon offset, and so on. So that's for the UK range.
Okay, when are the first departures out of interest for the Intrepid Retreats in the UK? I mean, are they starting as soon as we're able to, in terms of the lockdown being lifted?
Yeah, exactly. So we planned, because we needed to actually set some dates. So we planned toward the end of July, and we've been, following the news and all of the, around restrictions and all of this to make sure that we are able, and we've been communicating with our customers and agents closely about that as well. So we will obviously operate them when we are able to, but the first departures are toward the end of July.
Okay, and what's the interest and uptake been so far? I mean, have you had good engagement from the trade so far in terms of the launch of this?
Yeah, we did actually. I think we had amazing feedback for both ranges, for the regional European and the UK. What has been really appreciated in the UK is either the more active type of trips, and there've been a lot of, we've seen as well in general from our booking and rebooking for next year that people are going more toward active outdoor type of trips. So the cycling trips have been very successful and popular. And also we are seeing some booking and inquiry coming for the more relaxing type of retreats, like Suffolk or beachy type of holidays, like the Greek or the Croatian retreat that we created. So it's a mix of everything, really.
Excellent. I think there's 14 retreats in the EMEA region so far, isn't there? That's with one in the Middle East, and one I think is in Morocco, the 14th one as well.
Yes, exactly.
Can you tell me a bit more about that one, actually? Because that I imagine that's going to be a trip very close to your own heart.
Yeah, it is. I think where Morocco has managed the coronavirus crisis pretty well. We had less than 250 deaths, and the virus has been well contained. So Morocco, as well as Jordan, have been selected to be part of this range, because we thought that we should be able, from a safety perspective, to as soon as the FCO advice lifts for these countries, to be operating them. So we did, again, as we do when we create a trip, an Intrepid trip, we try to go to places less visited. So we are going to a place called Wirgan, which is in the High Pass Mountain. It's a beautiful little locally owned place with a nice pool and surrounded by the mountain and a beautiful lake. So it's very relaxing. There is a lot of community interaction with the local community. There are some spa and local hammam activities, and obviously all the food is organically sourced and amazing. So actually looking into going to it, because I'm in Morocco at the moment. So potentially I'll go for it as soon as we can.
No, it's going to be, I think we're getting to that point really, aren't we, at this point now, where we're talking about taking trips again. Like we said, the news updates on Friday means that can start getting people away again as well. So that moment when it actually comes is going to be great. And the fact that you can kind of welcome that with some new product as well, and arrange hopefully that I imagine you're hopefully going to plan to grow in future if it's a success this summer. I mean, is that the plan longer term?
Completely. We actually are, as we've been talking about domestic for many years, and it was part of our strategy. I think from a UK perspective and Europe, we've always thought that some of our trips in this region were maybe too Australia focused and maybe too adapted for the Australian market and less for the UK market, from the length of these trips, from the places where we go. So we actually have started to address this with this range, and we will definitely be doing more of that moving forward. So I don't see any problem as soon as we are really able to scale up and operate a lot of trips, to have 2, 3, 4 different retreats in each of these countries, and even more, or even multi-day touring, but more adapted to the UK type of market and customers, for sure.
Yeah. And I think also, was it difficult at all for you to apply that kind of Intrepid Travel ethos to doing operations like this in let's take the UK for example? Because I mean, when you have trips out to certain countries in the world, there is obviously an objective to further and advance the communities out there as well. Whereas in the UK, perhaps there is not quite such the same imperative, but there is still obviously opportunities for you to really play an important role in the tourism economies of a place like the UK. I mean, was it difficult to do that, or was it quite an easy transition to kind of go to that?
It's not about, it wasn't easy or difficult. I think that the same rules applies wherever we are, and people need tourism everywhere. People who are in the tourism industry need tourism everywhere in the world equally. I mean, even in Europe, it's the case. And I can give you, I mean, as I said, the suppliers that we are working with in Suffolk, for example, is locally owned, is someone who's desperate for, having some customers coming to, because this is just his way of only source of income, and so obviously it is really important. And a brand like Intrepid that's really recognized and global, to be able to feature some of these suppliers that are less known, that are, just working on, different online tour operate like selling online the way they want and the way they can, and all of this is actually, it's good for them. It's giving them exposure, and it's actually needed. If we look at the trip in Greece, we have created a retreat in Syros, which is a little island. I mean, it's a quite big island that is really local and famous for by the local people would go to Syros, but it's not on a travel brochure. It's not like Santorini or Mykonos. The supplier we work with for more than 10 years, and he is really desperate. He's actually been emailing me throughout the crisis, asking how our booking's doing and what's happening. It's a family-owned place, and when we started to design the trip, there was no question that we're going to actually use this supplier, this island, because this place actually only rely on Intrepid business. So Europe, UK is not different from other places. This crisis has been hitting a lot of people massively, so it's no difference for us, really.
Excellent. And that actually also brings me on to another area that's obviously a great focus for Intrepid, and that's kind of your purpose mission, where you're just looking to I guess in everything you do to be a company that is contributing to wherever it is you're looking to operate. How is that coming forward at the moment from your perspective, and how is the challenges of the kind of pandemic kind of clashed with that, let's say?
We've been operating in the sustainable travel space for the past 31 years. Before this crisis, all our strategy and moving forward was to keep pushing and to keep increasing our market space, because we did realize and we did know that this is why we've been growing so fast in the past 4 years, especially, and been recording some amazing results and profits. I think this crisis is also accelerating that, because we think that customers now will want to travel more eco-consciously and sustainably than ever. So we've got to, I think, to strengthen our position even more, and whatever we were doing before, we will keep doing it moving forward. And we do hope that the whole industry is going to consider sustainability more and more moving forward. We've seen what COVID has done to the environment in terms of positive impact. And we've always said, and I'm going to quote our CEO, James Thornton, that without a healthy planet, we don't have a travel industry, and there won't be a vaccine for the climate emergency or climate change. There might be a vaccine for COVID. So I think this is really important that we all learn from that, and moving forward, when we rebuild and rebound, we rebound more responsibly than ever. Yeah,
and I think something that was raised perhaps during the crisis so far has been whether this situation is going to impact the mission towards, or the movement towards, more sustainable, environmentally friendly travel. I guess you're hopeful that we're going to come out the other side and there is going to be an appreciation of the need for this to continue and hopefully be strengthened by what's happened. I mean, is that kind of the ethos you're working to now?
I think so. It's definitely what we are doing and what we will be doing. And I think what's going to really drive the change is that consumer behavior will change. And if consumer behavior change and people want to purchase more eco-consciously and sustainably, then the industry will have to change as well and adapt. And while we've been in a niche for many, many years, we might end up being in a mainstream. And this is what we are hoping. And this is where we see our advantage probably that, to be moving forward.
Another area that we've certainly worked with Intrepid before is on the kind of diversity and inclusion side of the business and that's movement. I know you've been doing some work recently with the Women in Travel Advocacy Group as well. Can you talk us through some of your work with that recently as well, please, if possible?
Of course. So Women in Travel founder Alessandra, I've met with her a few years ago when we started a project with Intrepid. I don't know if you've heard of it, but one of our main gender goal, after we got the B Corp certification, or we were in progress to be certified B Corp, we realized that we had some improvement to make on the gender side of our two leading, let's say, pool. And so I was a general manager at that time of our office in Morocco, and we had no female tour leader at all. We only had male, and it was not something that people were questioning, and it was just statu quo, and not, people didn't really realize that it could be a good job for women to do as well. So I've done some work around, increasing the number of female tour leaders in Morocco and working for our company. And this is how I met with Alessandra the first time, and Women in Travel. And we started, we met at WTM, where we did a really big conference together with other people from the trade. And at the end of this conference, we realized that this topic was really new and there might be more to do about it. And we just decided exactly at that day that we will launch the first ever international forum for women in travel. And this happened in Iceland back in January, just before this crisis really hit us hard. And it was an extremely successful event. The whole idea was to debate, discuss, and look into what we could implement moving forward to help women to develop and to access higher level position in the travel industry, because this industry is dominated by women from two perspectives. On the working type of side, there are much more women working in the travel industry than men, but and on the consumer side, so there are much more women purchasing and travel than men. And so unfortunately, in the leadership side or leadership position, we know that it's still heavily dominated by men. And what could we do to change that? And what could we really put in place to encourage women to develop and to access leadership positions? So this is what we've been doing with Women in Travel so far, but there are so many other plans and projects. It's a topic that's really close to my heart, as you mentioned, and there's so much more to do, really.
Yeah, and I think also as part of Intrepid's annual reporting as well, I mean, this is a huge focus of that as well, isn't it? You break down an awful lot of these areas that all of travel is kind of working through at the moment and hopefully trying to drive improvement, but to actually be able to track that and actually be able to really reflect on your achievements every year, that must be really helpful from your perspective as well within the part of the business you run as well.
Yeah, it's very concrete. I mean, the B Corp certification has given us a platform to improve ourselves, and looking at every single dimension of the business, which is recruitment, tour leaders, office staff, leadership, boards, so we've actually challenged ourselves on every single part of it. And once we achieved our goal to double the number of female tour guides 6 months ahead of the deadline we've given to ourselves, we decided to come up last March, so in 2020, this year, with new gender goals. We actually committed to double the number of female porters, that take part of the treks in different countries. We decided to also increase to work toward our supply chain and work with our 200 largest suppliers to help them and support them to increase also the gender gap within their organizations and so on. So it's, again, as I said, we have been given an amazing platform with the B Corp certification to improve ourselves, and every, we are doing progress. There's still a lot to do, I think, for not just for us, for many of us.
Yeah, certainly. Zina, I'm just going to circle back around now to where we started essentially with National Travel Agents Day as well. So we're coming up for this, the first one, first celebration that hopefully people are going to come on board with is going to be on the 24th of July this year. And hopefully then on an annual basis, it will be that week before the schools break up at the end of July for the UK. So what would you hope people do on that day? If you are involved within the travel sector, what would you encourage people to do on that day?
Recognize, celebrate, recognize the importance of their trade partners, travel agent partners, organize events as they can this year, you know, given that we will probably be still on lockdown or be restricted to do many, you know, things. But really it's recognition. So we will be given, for example, agent special discounts so they can also go on holidays. As our frontline workers, we've heard a lot about frontline workers from the medical, you know, healthcare side, and you know they've been given a lot of love and support, which is really important. I think we need to do the same with travel agent and just really celebrate, recognize. I think this is really what we are looking for this year's event.
Excellent. And the hashtag I think is NTADUK, isn't it? So yes. That's the one people can get behind, and there's also other information I think on the Intrepid website in terms of how you can also get involved as well. Is that right?
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. Zina, look, I really appreciate your time this morning for this, and I'm so glad we could kind of talk this through on the day you're announcing it, and hopefully come towards the end of this month, a couple of weeks' time, we'll have some positivity at least, and hopefully we'll have some more travel moving again, and we can look towards a date where we can start getting away again, and also look forward to Intrepid Retreats in the UK as well. So really looking forward to that, and all the best for the next few months or so as we work through this as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you very much indeed, and thanks everyone for tuning in this morning as well.